The one guy, Chris, he looks at me, he says, Henry, just slow down. Slow down. He said, you slow down, you're going to be way faster. Clay told me that while he was building the Carbon Woody, he was diagnosed with cancer. And the doctors told him, we got to get on this. And he said, you don't understand how important this build is. And he told me, he said, as soon as that was over and he was kind of bummed out, he's like, okay, I'm going to head back down to Texas. I'm going to see my cancer doctor and see what we can do. And he said, when he walked in and they did the scans, they said, you waited too long, Clay. Looking back at it, you know, through Clay's eyes, it's like I knew, like, I didn't want to be that builder for the rest of his life that just lets friendships and family go to the wayside to build a car and then put it up to get judged by somebody who don't build cars.
You're fixing to listen to another edition of Oil and Whiskey, an Ironclad original. Fixing to.
We got a little southern version.
Mixing it up, huh?
Trying to bring a little country to it. In studio, back again, another banger guest. People that are watching are going to obviously know that this is Henry Richards from Steadfast Manufacturing. If you're listening and you're not watching, it could also be a younger, much better looking version of Will Posey from Big Oak Garage. But he's lost a lot of weight and he's trimmed that beard, so not so much anymore.
Trying to look presentable.
Hey, you're getting there.
Yeah, you came highly recommended through the social media
the listener
post we did. You were like the fan favorite.
Nice.
Yeah.
The people's champ.
Yep.
I think it was mostly John Jackson and his 47 aliases that he
He's got some
just
burner
peppering
goes,
us
you
with,
think?
yeah.
John Jackson. He was a good one. Today's guest is Henry Richards, owner of Steadfast Manufacturing in Ohio. Also Steadfast Moto now, right?
Yeah, that's just kind of a hobby thing.
A side thing? All right. Henry, welcome to Oil and Whiskey. Excited to do this.
Welcome, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, good to have you out. I always, for some reason, I always think you're in Michigan. I didn't know you were in Ohio. I don't know why that is.
Ohio. The Ohio. That's that nose down stance. That's all Ohio guys.
Yeah.
Gotta be.
Yep.
Ass up, nose down like a bulldog.
Ohio's known for that?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I thought like in the general like Midwest, and you're probably not far from like I-65 or I-70, that nose down stance is good for one thing, and that's just eating some gnarly pothole out on a shitty highway. No?
Man, glad you could come up here. I know you picked up a little cream puff while you're up here.
Yeah, it sure did.
You gotta get a little closer.
All right.
Closer.
Yeah, excited to see what you're going to do with that thing. I've been just kind of geeking out over the two Tri-5 trucks you built in the last year or two. Love that patina truck. I think we saw that at Bobby Show. I wasn't at Columbus. I saw the Bobby Show for the first time. I was down there, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, just kick-ass truck. I mean, love the stance, the style. It's probably like one of the first patinaed builds. It's got a bunch of like subtle high-end metalwork everywhere that you don't really pay attention to until you get up on it, and then it's just more and more details that keep just grabbing you. Kick-ass truck.
So those two trucks are the first customers I've really had that just let me go all out. Like I'd throw ideas at them and they'd roll with about all of them.
It's crazy that I think both trucks are amazing. I think you look at more details in the patina one than you do in the shiny one.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy how you're just like, oh shit, look at that. Oh shit, look at that. Which you'd think would be the opposite. You'd think that the glitz and the shine and all that stuff would draw you in for more.
Absolutely.
Well, I think people are just so used to seeing a shiny car done nice to walk up on that first one and, the paint's not all perfect and all that. And so it kind of draws you in with that. And
Yep. Before we get too far here, we almost forgot because we're diving right into this, but Henry and I talked yesterday and he brought up a great fucking idea. Because we skipped over on the gas, and usually we ask if a guest has an on the gas.
Has he got an on the gas?
He's got an off the gas. So we're mixing this up.
Oh,
yeah.
I like the sounds of
I'm going to turn it over to Henry.
So an off the gas.
It's a great idea, man. I love where you were going with it.
Cool. So yeah, I think, all the time we're bringing up and coming builders and everything, but I thought it'd be cool to reflect maybe on somebody who's passed away that's not on the gas anymore. They're more so off the gas. So I was thinking somebody that taught you and I both a lot, Clay Cook.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely, man.
That man's mind just worked different.
Yeah. I was talking to Bobby Walden a couple days ago, and Clay was a genius. Like, if we didn't have tools, Clay built the tools. That way all of us had tools to use.
Yep. Yeah, he's one in a million. I mean, irreplaceable. I remember Clay, you probably remember, like, the very first Good Guys show. I think I was just out of high school, maybe. And he used to tote around in that little trailer. It was like a 16-foot enclosed trailer, and he had all his tools in there. He had that Mini Max, I think, or maybe even had a full-size Pole Max in there. I don't know. But I didn't know anything about metal shaping at all. I didn't even know, like, you could shape metal, bend metal. And he's at every Good Guys show with his apron on, and he's just Clay Cook, man, just like laid back. And
Yep.
so
I've got
cool.
his apron hanging on my Pool Max.
Do you?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't meet Clay until probably maybe 05 or 06. And then in about 07, 08, we hauled a lot of when he was doing the valve covers and a lot of the stuff. We was on our trailer, and sponsored and stuff. So he would come out to the shows and, do his booth in our booth. And we would, you know how it is when at some of the shows and Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon and it's dead and you're just sitting there. We had conversations about everything for several years, and went up and stayed at his house a couple of times and stuff. And the stories he would tell and the way his mind works about stuff. And it's sometimes like you go to a shop and he'd talk about, well, I'm going to do this, this, and this, but then I'm going to make a tool for this. Then I'm going to make the die for that tool. I haven't invented that part yet, but I'm going to do this part. And it's like, it's because you can't turn that radius for that bead to recreate for that thing. That seems like a lot to get to that.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the way his mind worked.
Yeah, I think it was a game changer for me. I mean, that really propelled me and changed my philosophy on, like, building things, because prior to that, I did a few metal shaping classes, and it was more like almost like hobby type stuff. You'd go and stand in front of an English wheel and a shot bag, and it's like, it's almost, not to discredit guys who are like great English wheel guys, but at that point I felt like it's like a hobby. Like, I'm probably making a part for a scale train, like a model train or something, right? And you spending some time with Clay. I mean, I think it's 3 or 4 times I went up there and just like worked with him.
Right.
And the way, like,
Every time he opened his mouth, it was like just dumping knowledge out.
Yeah.
Just dump. You couldn't take it all in.
right, dumping knowledge, but his ability to, like you said, create something to make something faster, that it's almost like production based, kind of like metal shaping craftsmanship. But the dude's just got so much talent. Nobody can compete with it. Some of, like, he'd have these like phenolic dyes to stamp an air cleaner lid that he did once, and I'm like, dude, the dye. Some of it's like, dude, the dye.
I know.
It took you like 6 months to make. I mean,
But that was part of his process. He couldn't just go do the other thing in another format. Identifying the issue, overcoming the issue, creating the tool, the die, and everything to do it was, quite frankly, probably more important to him than the part that he was making.
Oh yeah.
The process was more important. Speaking of that, when you went down, how many rhubarb pipes did you had to make down there?
When you work with Clay, you don't make any rhubarb pipes. You just make things out of metal.
Another plus.
Yeah, you make things out of metal.
And then at lunch, you head to the Tilted Kilt.
Yeah, dude. Dude, I was gonna bring that up. He was a ladies' man,
Dude, when Clay passed, it was a month later, that place went out of business.
Did it really?
He held them in business solely.
If I was down there for 3 days, all 3 days, that was where we were eating lunch.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we went there too, and he's flirting it up with all the waitresses and stuff, and he was a fun guy, man. I miss him.
Yeah, you and me both.
But we ended up, you and I obviously worked together when, it was unfortunate that he had to, in his final days, he was kind of clearing all of his worldly possessions. But I went down there and bought the majority of his shaping stuff. So we've got, like, all his T-Dolly stuff, and got his power hammer, his yoder, his flanger, and it's neat to just see that stuff every day, guys.
Yep. I've got his wheel. I've got
it.
his Pullmax dies, all of his Pullmax dies, and so
Those are some special Pullmax dies.
They're
They
way cool.
all
That's
had a
probably
little
a
secret
collection.
sauce.
So Clay called me down. It would have been about 3 weeks before he passed. And he said, "Hey, Henry," he said, "I need some help. Somebody who knows what's going on, somebody who I could trust to sort out my stuff." And that was a game changer for me. Like, the way I looked at the shop, the way I looked at life. You spend 3, weeks with a guy who's basically laying on his deathbed telling you his regrets throughout the business, it changes everything. But I remember one day, he said, "You get all them Pullmax dies laid out?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You get a big picture of them?" I said, "Yep." I printed it out just like you said, and I had this big picture. And he says, "Bring that one to the house tonight, this one to the house, and this one to the house, and I'll tell you what they're going to do." And so I brought him over, and he showed me how he built the one that it would flange like the flange on an MG gas tank.
Okay.
The other one would do the wire edge on a hood, and he showed me how to progressively stack the dies to get everything through. So it was super cool.
That's wild that even in his final days, dude's that passionate about it that he's
Wants
teaching
to make sure
and
that it
passing on the knowledge.
Yeah, the day you left, he was like, "So was he there today?" And I knew he knew his hammer was going to a good home.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
Man.
he's sorely missed, man. But
this is something new we're gonna have to do. I like this episode. I mean, I like this segment.
yeah.
Because there is a lot of those guys out there when you start thinking about it that you forget
Yep.
until you start remembering. Until you start thinking about it.
Yeah.
No, it's good. Thanks. See, already 10 minutes in, bringing the heat.
John Jackson and his alter egos may have been right.
Yeah, a bunch of folks were right. All right, so you talked. Let's get into that before we get into the how you got your start. You talked about talking with Clay and how it changed your outlook. We talked briefly, giving the tour of some of the stuff, and you made some great points, and we talked about things that we've learned as well, very similar, albeit it took us a lot longer probably to learn that and realize that. But what are some of those things that that you took away from those that changed the way you did business?
So about 2-3 months before I went down there to help him clear stuff out, I was down there helping him design parts for a personal build. So he was building a 32 Chevy for himself. And so we were kind of laying things out, talking about like wishbones, talking about like, different steering arms. And Clay would disappear. And when I would ask him a question on like a part he was going to put in a certain place, he would be in his office looking at pictures of the carbon woody. And Clay and I, we'd start talking. He's like, "Henry, check out how I did the seatbelt here on the back of the seat. Check out how I did this. Nobody even seen that." And that car went out for the grade 8,
Yep.
but it didn't win the Riddler. And he would show me details and stuff, and I'd ask him a question, and I'd go back, and I don't know, maybe 2-3 hours later, I would go back, and Clay would be in there still staring at pictures, and I didn't get it at the time. It didn't make sense why Clay would keep looking at those pictures. It's like, okay, Clay, it's past.
You sure he wasn't ducking out and going to the tilted kilt?
No, dude, he was in there. So when Clay calls me back down, I would go to his parents' house every night after being to the shop and kind of asking him about a couple things, and hospice was called in and stuff. And Clay told me that while he was building the carbon woody, he was diagnosed with cancer. And the doctors told him, "We got to get on this." And he said, "You don't understand how important this build is." He said, what I'd like to do is I'd like to finish this build, and then we'll take care of the cancer." And so he kept working on the build, and you guys would know with a Riddler style build, the stress that goes in, the guy he was building it with, like things were rough. And so he stressed about it. There's a lot of times I think he kind of, was working on the car on his bill. And so one thing leads to another. They get that car done, and he's going up sure that he's going to win the Riddler. And you guys know how that played out. He didn't win the Riddler.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, as soon as that was over and he was kind of bummed out, he's like, "Okay, I'm going to head back down to Texas. I'm going to see my cancer doctor and see what we can do." And he said, when he walked in and they did the scans, they said, "You waited too long, Clay. Yeah. You're going to die. That car killed you."
Fuck. Yeah, I never knew that. Man, that's rough.
Yep. And it's like, yeah, I see it on the outside looking in, It's like, I remember what it was like to be on fire. I remember what it was like. And when you're sitting there with a guy and he's telling you, "I wished I would have done this different. I wished I would have hung out with Melissa more. I wished I would have had kids." And I remember when I was working on that green sedan, that first 8 months my little girl was born.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I missed most of that.
We were all there.
Yep. And it's like looking back at it, through Clay's eyes, it's like I knew, like, I didn't want to be that builder for the rest of his life that just lets friendships and family go to the wayside.
Yeah.
To build a car and then put it up to get judged by somebody who don't build cars.
Yeah.
The year that really hit me hard was when you guys took 2 cars out. Detroit Speed took a Moe's Charger and the Chevelle out. That was like the worst year ever for good guys judging. You know,
Yeah.
I know you guys know.
Yeah.
Without throwing anybody under the bus, it was like, and why do we kill ourselves for that? To put them cars up and somebody's going to judge that car that doesn't build a car.
Yeah.
Like, because the top 5 almost every year would look way different, in my opinion.
Yeah. 100%, man. Yeah, that was a tough time. Clay would call me like once a week throughout that, you know, and he was pretty open about it. It was tough to hear, you know.
Yep.
But, yeah, and it was almost sad because, you know, he was hung with all sorts of projects that he felt compelled to finish, you know, and in his like final days, he's trying to facilitate like getting the 69 Camaro done and trying to make sure everybody was taken care of, that he didn't leave somebody high and dry when at that stage in your life, you know, just like you said, I mean, it's family, friends, and yourself.
Yep.
Probably a little more important than
Yeah.
the damn car.
Yeah. So you hear a guy in that position that's climbed to those ranks and, you know, spent sleepless nights stressing over this build or this project or trying to get this tool or that tool, like the Echold that you kept looking at. And we talked about, it's like, you would know what it'd take as a shop in Clay's position to put the finances together to get that tool. And I know there's shops all over the country where guys are like, I got to have that. And they're spending all these countless hours to gain that tool. And it's like, man. And then I watch that stuff get given away.
Yeah.
You know?
You're right, man. That's kind of tough to digest when you think about it. Yeah, you work your whole life for that, and then it's your treasure. It's like you put it on this pedestal to chase it.
Yep.
And in the end, it's...
So, yeah, for what and to what end? That's what's crazy. Like, I mean, it's still hitting me, the Riddler thing, like you said, when they said they waited too late. Because there's no better way. I mean, everything else is bad. Like you talked about, missing. There's builders out there listening that are going to understand exactly what we're talking about, because all of us in this room have done the same thing. She's sitting over there and she's looking at those eyes that we've all seen, those same exact eyes, remembering the things that we didn't do. Yep. Missing the birthday parties, missing the ball games, missing all of the stuff, because just like you were saying, you're trying that car, that award, that customer, that show, that piece of equipment, that whatever that is. It was just that next step. Once we get to that next step, things will be a little easier. We won't have to do that. But it just snowballs into the next thing. Yeah. And the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. But it's...
The best advice I think I've ever gotten was from Dave Lane. And he said, Henry, you have to determine what success looks like to you. You guys set the standard for success. Like, I always looked at the pictures and seen Roadster Shop, and I see, 20 builds lined up in the floor and thinking like, oh man, that's where it's at. And then it's like Dave Lane, you got him just building one car at a time. Yep. And then so once I've got 5 builds on the floor, and then you've got 6 employees on the floor, and then all of a sudden I don't get to work on cars anymore. I was like, Dave Lane had it right all along. Yeah. Like, he still gets to have fun. He still gets to work on cars. And so, yeah, I haven't taken on a build in a long time.
I mean, that's an interesting topic there, because success, I don't think it's always like volume and size, right? Because from the outside looking in, we've got a sizable shop. There's a ton of employees, tons of square footage, and there's a lot going on. But Dave Lane's a prime example. I look at him and I'm like, that dude's got it made. Like, that guy has got it figured out. He's working behind his house in a beautiful little shop.
Back to where Clay was coming from, though, it's like on the outside looking in, when you first started, it's like more. I need more tools. Yeah. I need more customers to buy more tools. Yeah. I need more of this. I need more of that. And it's like, when does it stop?
Yep. Well, that's where I was going to go. Like, how do you? It's going to sound extremely disingenuous to a lot of shops out there, and a lot of guys that are in the middle of that, doing that same thing, and they're looking at us, and they're looking at you, and they're looking at something like that. Well, you've done it, so it's fucking easy for you to say, I haven't made that part yet. So how do you tell a guy? Because I promise you, if I'd have heard this same exact discussion and conversation, as moving as it is and understandable as it is, back in the day when it was only one focus and only one vision, I don't know if I would have listened to it. I'd have still been like, yeah, that's fine. Y'all have done that. Let me get to that point, and then I'll make that decision. How do you tell somebody?
That's a good point.
I think it's all stages in your life, and you got to get to somewhere, and the grass is always greener. And you always want to do something that you don't have and get to the next step until it's too big, and then you want to back down and take it easy, relax a little bit until that gets boring, and you want to start going back up again. So
I think the best way to put it is, one of the preachers at church one day was talking this story, And in this story, he said that there was a very successful businessman, and he goes down to Mexico on a fishing trip. So he sits on this boat and tells this guy, like, this is great. You know, he takes him out fishing, and he's like, this is so great. This is so much fun. He said, you really should get a couple more boats. Guy says, okay, and then what? He said, well, then you should franchise. You should go to other parts of the island, and then you should have a few more boats there too. And he says, okay, and then what? And he's like, well, then maybe go to different countries and have more boats. And then you'd have a franchise, and you'd have all kinds of money. The guy said, then what? And he said, well, then you could just go fishing. and I think that's the best way to put it.
You could come with all that money.
Like, I never wanted to run a hot rod shop. When I first started, I just wanted to build a hot rod for myself.
Yeah.
Then the neighbor guy said, hey, can you build me one of those? And then the other neighbor guy said, hey, can you build me one of those? And I had two of those going. And I just thought, back then I was hanging out, you know, with Race and Josh and running either to Detroit or Cincinnati.
Bad influences.
Yeah, and it was like, man, I could build hot rods, and this will fund our drinking on the weekends. Like, let's go. And that started running the shop.
Yeah.
Do you think that I know they go hand in hand, but they're still a little separate. Do you think the prominence of the show, the win, the trophy, even though we all know that the guy that's deciding most of the time doesn't build cars, right? And we all kind of in the know, we're like, well, it doesn't really mean anything. But at the same time, before you get the peek behind the curtain and see the wizard, you think it's real. You know?
That's the best way to put it. That's so true.
Does that drive more than just your peers' acceptance and the other builders looking at you with respect and knowing that you did as good of a job, and all these guys that you truly look up to, knowing that you put your best foot forward, is also a drive. Now, I mean, those go hand in hand, but those are two different things as well, and it's difficult. Again, back to the kind of point of like, how do you tell a guy? We're not talking about don't push hard for the quality. What we're talking about is like, there is a time to like maybe turn it off, and if you got the customer, like the show deadlines and stuff like that. I don't know. It's a weird.
Yeah, but so the show deadlines. What's the show deadline? Good Guys Columbus. More than likely, Good Guys Columbus is coming the year after that.
Yeah, and you're probably not going to make it that year either.
Yeah, but
Same car.
Yeah.
So there's a show a year later, and the older I get, the faster I see those years just click by.
Yeah, I'd say that's something that we've backed down from quite a bit over the year. We used to thrash. It'd be, all night long. We've talked over and over about that all weekend long. You're pushing and pushing for a show, and 9 times out of 10, you make the deadline, right? Because none of us. I think it's like a commonality with everybody in this industry that you want to conquer. You want to like accomplish that goal. But you get fucking done with the show, and the car, I mean, realistically, it's halfway built because you're going backwards as soon as you get back. So it's a better quality product if you slow down, as long as the customer's got the patience to bear with you. And it's better value because the hours I feel like you build in there when you're thrashing, you're putting too many people on it, you're working too late. You're not effective. You're not efficient.
At some point, I feel like quality takes a back seat to certain things.
Yeah. Well, there's always no matter who's out there listening, talking, the best builders, everybody that's out there, you always strive for quality. But there's those times and those 11th hours, you're like, well, if we had the time, we would have done this, right? But the time that I think the best way to look at it, and this is all coming together as we're talking through this. The only person you should be worried about making happy is the customer. You should have that discussion at the very beginning and understand what those customers' needs and wants are, and if they align with what you and your team want to do. And if he's adamant on it has to be done by a certain show to win a certain award, and that's his measure of happiness, regardless of the quality of the car and what he's going to do with it. If that's his measure of happiness and that doesn't align with your shop's goals, then he's probably not the customer for you. If the customer just wants hit this vision sprinkled with your vision of whatever certain type of car, and it might be a certain color, and it might be a certain type of vehicle, it might be a certain stance, it might be the fact that he just wants to drive it cross country with his grandkids and it be reliable and all that. If you focus on making that customer happy, regardless of what all the other builders at the show is going to say, and whatever trophy judges or whatever are going to say, because those guys aren't going to give you more business, but that happy customer is going to get you more business.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. And everything else will generally work out for itself. We run into this all the time over the past few years. You run into shops that you knew nothing about. You've never seen them at shows. Super talented guys have a shop full of stuff, and they work for their customers and make their customers happy. They have a good life. They have a good thing, and they haven't ever chased that thing. I'm not saying that it's wrong.
Right.
But if you focus on the customer and you align your shop and your team's goals with that customer's goals,
And
everything
like you
else
said,
works it out.
I think everybody's goals need to line up. I've got a group of guys right now that kind of understand where I stand on things. They know that, my little girl and wife are priority. That's just how it is. And, you got to have a rough deadline or nothing would ever get done.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I want to take Friday off and go swimming with my little girl, that's what we're going to do. I've grown up way too long hearing guys say, I wished I would have spent more time with them when they were little.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have that excuse. And
Yep.
that's one of the things I'd like to see other guys kind of man up and say, hey, listen, this is my shop.
Yeah.
My family's important, because not a single kid's going to remember that pros pick or that street rod of the year, but they're going to remember when dad wasn't there.
You're right. And I think, my words of wisdom on that would be that you got the first 3 years of their lives to work your ass off, because they don't really do shit when they're there. They're like non-functioning little creatures, Once they're 4, and they start getting some personality and they can remember, those are the years that I regret it. I look back at pictures of my kids in little Roadster Shop shirts and you're like, oh, wasn't there. Dad wasn't in that picture. But
It's a bell curve. You should be around about 24 to 36 hours once they enter the world. And then at that point, you're not needed.
3 years.
You're not needed and you start getting needed more and more as exponentially they start being able to do more things. When they can start moving on their own, you need to be home a little bit more, right? When they can start feeding themselves, you're home a little bit more. When they start walking, they start doing things, you're home a little bit more. But then as they start really doing things for themselves and high school comes around, they start being shitheads again, then you can start being away a lot longer, right? It's on a curve, right?
yeah.
Feel like that might be maybe skewed a little bit. Yeah.
No, that's personal experience, 100%.
So my personal experience, when my little girl was born, her mom was going through a lot and I wasn't there. That green sedan took priority. And I pretty much wrecked our relationship. It was one of those things when I did get the car done and wanted to jump back into that.
You waited too late.
I waited too late. It was done. She checked out. She didn't have any help. She was a new mom too. And, car was priority. Family wasn't priority. So that was one of the things that I think started planting the seed. And then Clay just kind of put that final nail in the coffin on what's important.
Yeah, shit, you said it when you came in here. Obviously, I noticed that you're half the size of probably the last time that I saw you.
Yeah.
And I said, man, dude, you look great. What's going on? And, you said that I've been focusing on me, which, that falls right in line with that. I think that's something that's missed across the board with dudes in this industry. It's just thrash, work hard.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Eat
crap food.
Yeah.
And that's a game changer, even for me. That's the one thing that I'm no longer the first guy here in the morning. Sometimes I'm the last guy because I go to the fucking gym every morning.
Yep.
And that's the one thing that I say that I've paid my dues, and if I'm not the fucking guy that's going to unlock the door this morning, then so be it, because I'm trying to stay healthy.
15s ain't going to curl themselves.
And I can tell you right now,
Pink ones or the purple ones?
my guys.
I hate you guys. I'm trying to be all sincere over here.
Comic relief.
My guys aren't complaining either. It's if I miss a day at the gym, I'm usually wound up.
Yeah.
They mess something up, I'll fly off the handle. Usually if I spend about 2 hours in the gym, I don't have the energy to get upset. It's oh, that's all right. We'll fix it.
Yeah. You're definitely a calmer person out of the gym. Now in the gym, first part of the morning and stuff, things can go a little bit of a awry in the gym. But once you're done and you've got all that out of your system.
That could be a whole new episode, Josh's gym stories.
Well, that started years ago. I started going, maybe it was 6-7 years ago. I started going we had a gym right across the street from the shop, and I started going there every
And you were
morning.
super supportive and like a nice friend.
Josh is working here, and I'll tell this story just like it is. He's sitting downstairs, right.
I thought he was going to sugarcoat it.
I was so expecting this to be.
He's sitting right beneath us in that little executive office there, and he was trying to like kind of find his place here. He was new to the roadster shop, so he was kind of business development stuff, and like he's looking all sharp. He's collared shirts every day, and I remember walking in there, and I'm looking at him in this collared shirt. I'm like, dude, you look like shit. I'm like, you have got to get your ass to the gym. Like, you are not looking good.
You remember it exactly like it happened.
That's pretty much how.
100%.
So from there, we'd go right across the street every morning. And then it was really peaceful when I used to go by myself. I put my headphones in, I just do my thing.
Be no fights.
No fights. I think Josh had probably half a dozen altercations over there.
That wasn't that many. Well, we went there for like 3 or 4 years.
1 a year. Let's say 1 a year.
1.2 a year.
Over the course of 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, I'm looking over. It's like, take my headphone out, and he's like, arms are flying and shit's flying, and he's screaming at some dude. Next thing I hear, they're arguing over, let's go outside, and like, dude, I'm just trying to
morning gym time. Like there's aggression, right? And but back to the taking care of yourself. We did talk a couple episodes about couple episodes ago about those late night thrashes and the stuff and the things that you ate, right? And the things that you would drink and the
things that I still drink. Like, I'm addicted to these for life.
Yeah, those will kill you.
It's got to be
get off
worse
that.
than this.
Yeah. I remember it vividly. I had a very specific routine. Back in the day, I was running a lot of different things. So morning time was always the same. Way back before there was Red Bulls, it was Mountain Dew, right? But remember they used to do the 1 liter, like the big fence post 1 liter Mountain Dew. So it was,
You fucking with some Baja Blast.
it was regular, just Mountain Dew. It was seasonal when the Live Wire, the orange one, would come out. I'd do that. But a 1 liter Mountain Dew and a pack of cigarettes and a honey bun. And that was what I drank, ate, and smoked on the way to work. And then lunchtime, it was another Mountain Dew and another pack of cigarettes because I'd already smoked that pack, and another honey bun and a cheeseburger or whatever else stupid stuff. And you do that for so long, and you're, like you said, you're at none of those times when you're thrashing, you got your eye on the goal. You're never thinking about relaxing. So you're not ever eating for like pleasure. It's just like fuel. It's just something to do to continue whatever, as much as I can put in to continue fueling the tank to get the output that I know that I need for the next 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours, whatever it is. And that shit catches up on you, and it catches up on you before you even know it. And then you're like, wow. And then, like you said, the gym, whether it's running or biking or lifting weights, or everybody's got their thing to take the time for yourself, to think, to relax, to stretch your body, to move your body, to get out and do something. I think that it's very, very key on how you interact with humans the rest of the day, and then how you're able to handle stress, how you're able to perform creatively, under stress, whatever it is. And that goes for any industry, whatever anybody's doing. Not that this is a self-help kind of thing, but I think that
it's turning into a Rogan podcast.
Well, I mean,
if any group of people needs to hear one of those kind of podcasts, so it's the hot rod community, right?
I was going to say, let's face it, walk around Columbus and see the physiques on most of the people that are in this industry.
My wife used to hate car shows. Not hate them. She'd put up with them for me, and we're walking around one day, and she just starts laughing. She's like, they're really not that bad. I think this is the only time of the year these guys get exercise.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right.
What's her Instagram? Oh, go ahead and put that on there.
Yeah, it's something.
Can I get some more whiskey while we're talking about this self-help stuff?
I moved it so it was blocking.
Out of efficiency, did you ever put the cigarette through the honey bun so you could be eating and then smoke, eating and then smoke?
No,
It just came to me like that could be something.
No, smoke a cigarette, take a swig of Mountain Dew, eat the honey bun, and it was always like you do the same thing, and you'd get to the interstate at the same time, and then I'd smoke the next cigarette. It was like I'm a creature of habit. If I fall into a routine, I'm very much in a routine, and it's hard to get out of that.
I've noticed my morning routines I enjoy from morning till the time I walk in the shop. It's like I've got a little bit of control over the day. because as soon as I get in the shower,
All hell breaks loose.
exactly.
Fucking wheels go off.
It's crazy how much peace and zen you can find in following that routine. And it's the same thing. I mean, down to even the minute of waking up. I mean, I'm dressed for the gym by the same exact time. You're getting in the truck. You're headed to the gym. You're going to everything's like routine. And then you do 1 hour and you're leaving. If you find so much peace in that, but if one thing goes awry in that, it's for me anyway. But I'm not like the most easygoing person. Like when something goes awry in that, it could be a simple thing, like
somebody using your curling bar that maybe you weren't done with, or
yeah, you don't fucking touch it. If it's sitting there at my feet, you don't fucking touch it. Like there's other bars out there.
Or I think the one that got you the most was the little Bluetooth speaker, right? When the dudes
That
were
was insane. I've got a thing for audio in public.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with background noises too. I'm not as confrontational as you.
I don't like any type of audio in public. Like I don't like to hear music. Like even like with windows down at a thing. Like I don't like to hear things.
why do you talk on speakerphone all the time?
I
then?
don't talk on a speakerphone. I hate that. Like if you're in, someplace and somebody's talking on a speakerphone, all they gotta do is put it on and hold it up to, their head. We've had it on airports before,
Yeah.
In airplanes. We had it at the wing place. Those kids were listening to music at the wing stop.
Yeah, you got physical with them on that. That was you turned around.
There's no need in it. Right? No, I give a warning first.
Yeah, and they didn't listen.
Right.
So then it was.
But so yeah, back. Just there, it's just root. There's no need in the audio. But back to the thing we were talking about was, it's amazing how you get so accustomed to that routine, and then it like it something happens and
Well, my sister
you're
and I
done.
carpooled to the gym one day. That changed it up enough. And then when she wanted to take a shortcut, I was like, "What are you doing? We have to go this way."
this is the way we go.
Yeah. You got to see the same sights.
Yeah.
You got to go down the same road. It's got to take the same time to get there.
Yep.
Same sips out of my coffee, and then we can go.
Yep.
That's routine, man. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people would benefit from that. Like even if they feel like they're missing an hour of like fabbing on something, like you might be surprised that you'll be more productive. And
So-
that loss isn't going to mean you're going to produce more throughout the day.
I'm over 80 pounds down now in
Wow.
the last
Good for you,
8
Max.
months. And yeah, my feet don't hurt at the end of the day. That I can put in X amount of hours late. It's
It's probably due to those orthopedics that you're wearing too. Those are probably
Some New Balance.
Get your car show shoes on.
yeah. Cruiser
Yeah.
shoes.
You talked about, you got started. You didn't want to have a hot rod shop. You just want to build hot rods. You grew up in a hot rod family. Let's get into some of that now. We'll get off some of the self-help stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
we've saved enough lives now.
How'd this get started?
So for me, my grandpa died. I was 3 months old. He left me with a 1928 sedan. I was playing in that car about the time I was 3 years old, knocked it out of gear. It rolled back into another car and back got caved in, and Dad took it apart. So my dad always had a body shop, and that car was always sitting in the back corner of the garage. And I thought, someday I'd like to rebuild that car. And I knew that was the car I didn't want to learn on. So in high school, I got my first Model A coupe and built that, just kind of wanted to build a traditional hot rod. So we did the flat black, the red wheels, the wide whites.
Of course.
And that's when I got out, started meeting some of the guys and running around. And then that's kind of when I realized that there was an industry that you could make money building cars.
What industry is that? Where's that at?
So I played around with it. I say played around with it because I never really took it super serious. And I got a call one day to go out to Denver, Colorado to work with Todd Gold when Todd Gold bought Rod Bots. Mm-hmm. So the same time, Race Rudicelli went out, Tony went out.
Yeah.
And so we
That's
all
a
went
crew,
out.
man.
We had some fun in Denver. So yeah, we went out there and I learned how to run a business, and that was
did?
probably
From Todd?
from Todd. Yeah.
Okay.
So I learned
How not to run a business?
what to do and what not to do. So I think with Todd, back then, doing loans, buying businesses, and he had no clue that the economy was getting ready to turn.
Yeah.
So right around that 07 time when the economy turned, it was just like I seen that the banks were the boss. It seemed like Todd wasn't as much in control as the banks were at that time, and things got kind of rough. So I went back to the house, and or back home to Ohio, and thought, that'd be a good time to kind of start my thing. So I don't really know what it's like to run a hot rod shop in a good economy.
Yeah.
So
Perfect time to start.
Yep. So we got Steadfast started up about back then, and I was still kind of playing. I didn't take it super serious. And I was in a relationship with my little girl's mom at the time, and one thing led to another, and I got an offer at a welding shop, and it was a really good offer, but I kind of wanted to build hot rods too, and that was one of those like legit come to Jesus moments. We had a big fight. It was a money related fight, and I hit the knees in the shop, and I said, God, you got to tell me what I'm supposed to do. Like, tell me what I'm supposed to do. Like, am I supposed to build cars? Am I supposed to go to work at this welding shop? Like, you got to tell me what I'm supposed to do. And I was smoking back then. Obviously he didn't say anything. So I stood up, lit that cigarette back up, sat down on the table, and 15 minutes later, I get a call from my little girl's mom. She said, Henry, I just want you to know that I love you. I said, I love you too. What's up? She said, I'll be over in about 15 minutes. So whatever I asked God at that moment, he told her. She walks into the shop and she says, I'm really scared. I said, what's going on? And she's like, I'm pregnant. And I remember looking up and said, that's the last time I ask you for anything. I got this strange feeling of relief come over me. Like I thought everything was going to be fine. The next day I got a call from Ames, Iowa. A guy seen some stuff that we were doing and asked if I'd build a 1932 Ford 5-window coupe for him. Oh, and that was the first big money job that come through the shop.
Dude, that's crazy.
Dude, next day. And what you guys see now is Steadfast. It just keeps going. Every time we turn around, it's like, man, it doesn't make sense. Economy's crazy. It doesn't make sense. Why do people just want to keep building toys? It doesn't make sense.
When she told that night, and she told you she was pregnant, was your mind thinking, well, now I got to make the smart decision and go take the welding job because I got a kid coming? Or were you saying I'm doing hot rods?
There was a sense of relief that came over me that I can never explain. I just knew everything was going to be fine. And that next day, I got that phone call, and I was like, I knew everything was going to be fine. Like, you guys want to know what changed Henry? Got Henry to stop drinking and doing some of that. Not saying that's bad. I'm just saying there's things that changed me. It was like he straight up said, at that time, I thought he was telling us we were going to be a family. He just told me I was going to be a dad. Yeah. Shop started rolling, things started going, and that's when I wanted to start kind of changing things. I didn't change right away.
You had a completely different reaction to the time that I said I didn't want kids from the time I met my wife, and it was guess what? We're having one. Oh, guess what? We're having another one. I wouldn't change it.
I just can't believe you punched her in the stomach after that. I still can't believe that.
Are you sure?
Oh man,
no.
Talking about
that's wild, man.
Yep,
I get it. We've talked about it here on before. My dad's still a preacher to this day. I grew up in that household, in that life, in that world. I know it full well. It's amazing.
So I never grew up in that world. So when I walked into that world with a beard and tattoos, and it was really scary. It was just like, this is crazy. You guys are all crazy. And she actually, it was a while, I'd say about a year after not quite a year after Ashley and I split up, she invited me to church. And yeah, the rest is history.
Like, so, look what I found out there.
It's out there in the bushes.
Her family was a little worried at the time. But yeah, and then seeing it's like there's this picture painted of what a Christian's supposed to look like, and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be bummed out someday when a Christian doesn't look like a suit and a tie and a Cadillac on Sunday morning. They're going to look like tattoos and beards. And
you might still have a Cadillac though, just be bagged and laying around there.
Maybe.
So you get the call, and it's just snowballing from there. You get that car done.
Snowballing from there. That guy ran out of money. So the first two bigger builds that we had going on, cars still aren't finished. So back then I didn't actually know what a finished car looked like. So it was like both cars got right around that $65,000 range, and the guys are like, well, I can't finish that car. And so this would have been right before the green sedan was done. And that's when I kind of knew, this would have been about the time Olive was going to be
2012,
born. Yeah. So she was born in 2012. So it was right around 2011. Okay. It was within that 9-month period, but so it was a couple months after she was born, and I was having trouble.
How long may it take? 9 months.
The cars or the kids?
The kids.
Yeah, the
Cars
kids
are
come way
longer.
faster. Yeah. So that's when I decided, like, man, if the world's going to see what we get to do, or what we could do, or what we could be capable of, I'm going to have to get one done for myself, and that's when the green sedan come about. And that's what we talked about earlier.
How you do? You got 2 customers that ran out of money. How are you pulling that off, financially wise?
Well, he got the money before they ran out.
No. So, dude, that was a rough situation there. So, the shop used to be in a pretty rough neighborhood, like right smack dab in the middle of the hood.
Where the best hot rod shops are.
And
That's where they all
I
start.
told Dad, there was a couple, gangster guys across the street, and hey, Dad, let's paint one of those like
go
moon
fuck-
buggies
let's go
for them
fuck
guys. Yeah. So we think, I think we're going to be able to throw some quick paint jobs on these cars with these 24s, and I'm going to be able to put some money together to do this sedan. So
Hey, what did you call them? Moon buggies?
yeah.
Never heard that.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of crazy words for those things. So we did a couple, and it didn't work out like I thought, because those guys couldn't necessarily pay. So that was a bad deal. So there was a lot of stuff. Traded out the interior, traded out the paint with the guy at the paint shop. A lot of the parts on the car I made because I couldn't afford to buy certain things, and the car I started with was fairly rough. So
This is a sick car, though, man. That thing.
Remember?
I remember when
it
that hit.
was the Indy, right?
no, we rolled it out for Good Guys Columbus the first year.
Same
And
year
then-
with the Innovator out.
Okay. But for Hot Rod of the Year, was it
And
Indy?
then we took a Dindy that year with an interior in it.
Got you.
And so that would have been one of the first cars I built all the way through, all the way to paint. Realized after I got the cross members built in the chassis that I didn't really plan out any room for the exhaust, so that all come under the chassis and looked horrible. So I had the guy who bought that car bring it back last year. I was like, let me make the exhaust right. That's like the worst part of that car. But
You think that still stands true today? Like, I think everybody kind of started their career that way, is like putting one banger out there and it kind of like propelled them. You think in today's day and age, like a newcomer can put something out that's kind of a heavy hitter and that just launches his career, that people just start knocking on the door and the phone starts ringing?
so I think they have to, because nobody is going to come to your shop and give you $200,000 to build them a show car if they don't know you can build a show car. So I feel like somebody's got to do something. I think Instagram makes it a little easier to where maybe you don't have to finish a car, but you can post all the fab. But I do think you have to show like, hey, I'll invest in myself, and give them that car to see. And then,
Yeah, as we talked about all the time, even if you got the customer that's got the budget that takes the other part, and you're going to see it the other way through. It's still kind of the same thing. It's like we got to put the business card out there. Back on, you had those 2 customers come. I'm interested in this just more for the knowledge sharing to other shops out there. You learned a little bit about a business. You had stuff. When that guy calls from Ames, Iowa, and he's like, I want to build this car. What'd you tell him it was going to cost, and how'd you know?
oh, I didn't know what it was going to cost.
Let's-
And he just assumed, I guess he was going to have a done driving, painted, upholstered car for around $65,000. Because when we got to that point, that's when he pulled the trigger or pulled the plug. And so, and then there was another one that I was building for a guy in Michigan, a Roadster. We got super crazy with all burning the dash and, playing with the gas tank, spreader bars arched, gas tanks arched, super sexy car. It's sitting on his loft now. And we're right about that 65,000 mark. And he's like, what's it going to take to finish it? I was like, well, I've never done one to this level. I don't really know where we're going to be. So then I just shot from the hip and was like, another 65,000. And then he's like, I can't do that. I just can't do that. And then it's like, he wanted to be the first guy that finished a car at the new shop.
Yep.
By this time, it's like, we just got the Hot Rod of the Year 2020 car done. I was like, dude, it's going to cost way more than we ever talked about. And
That
he's like,
65 grand was cheap.
yeah, I can't do it for that. I just can't do it for that. And I think most shops will probably get themselves in trouble, younger shops, if they're not honest with what it costs.
Yeah.
I mean, you're over 65,000 in parts and material.
But the problem
all
is,
day long.
the
Yeah.
problem is I don't think that it's not. You can't be honest with the cost when you don't know. Like you said, if you don't have the body of work to say, you've just got to be honest with, this is what our labor rate is. At the end of this week, we're going to show you how much we did and how much it cost, and you're going to pay us. And we're going to keep going. And then along the way, you're going to say, I want it nicer than that, or well, let's add this, let's this. And you're going to have a discussion about, hey, just so you know, what you just asked for is going to take 2 weeks worth of work, or it's going to take X amount of dollars to buy that. And we just work together along the way. Once you have a few of them under your belt, right, you do have start a little bit of a body of work of guys like, well, you know, what's it going to take to do something along those lines? The problem then becomes, you know how much it costs to do that, but you as a shop are always wanting to do something better the next time. So the price that you just gave him, you're going to put X amount of dollars or labor into it to make it even much nicer. So you screwed yourself.
Yep. So now the cool thing is I've got, you know, Eric Moore, Noel Irvin, those two guys. I'll tell them what I'm going to do, and they just let me roll with it. So I finally have a group of guys that are just
That's awesome.
Yeah, they just go for it, Henry.
That's where it's at.
It always ends up full circle. The start, the struggle, along the way, and everybody kind of falls into their place with their group of customers, and everybody knows each other, everybody's friends with each other. You've already done the dating thing. You know, we talked about it before. Now you're at the fart stage. Like,
here we go again. Right?
But that's the best. That's the best way to describe it, because it is like the guy's like, all right, you're going to do this, this, and this, or we're going to sit like this. You've got your own language. You can talk in short form. You know, you don't have to sell anybody on anything, and they're going to pay the bill.
And Noel's cool. It's, you know, I'll go tell him, hey, I got this idea, and this is what's going to cost. Henry, go for it. It's good, man. Yeah. So that's been a lot of fun.
It's just a trust thing. You know, they obviously know that you're stand-up guy, and that it might be more than they wanted to spend, but the money's going into the car. You know, it's not like going into a new pool in your backyard, or like, you know, so you're giving them value. It's just going to be maybe a little bit more than they bargained for in the get-go. You know, but I think that's the way to fucking do it, man. Every reputable shop seems to fall into that kind of routine. You know. And it's not competitive either, you know.
Like, you get your group of guys.
Yeah. Well, and I think everybody's style is different enough. There's no reason for us to be competitive. Right. So when I was first getting started, like the local shops, I just like bouncing around to a couple different shops and kind of talking to the guys about their projects. And they thought, you know, like, well, he's coming in to steal our ideas. And I just like the cars.
Yeah.
Right.
And they started getting really weird when we first started building cars. And the first time I remember talking to Alan Johnson, I was tripping over my tongue like a girl with a crush. It was bad. But he did a roof insert on the 3-window and the 5-window.
Yep.
How that thing was flush. And I remember asking him about it. And that was the first time I talked to a pro builder. And he's, well, I did this one like this. And then, so the next one I did like this. And if I did it again, I would change this. And I was like, man, he just laid out exactly how to do it. Like, that was so cool. And then you see that with the other guys. You bounce ideas back and forth, and we've been fortunate enough, and I know you guys have too, to help big shops with big projects, with building chassis and that. So
yeah, that's probably the coolest thing about this industry, is being able to work with your peers who, you know, in other industries you'd probably look at them as competition,
right?
But it's like a big happy family.
I always look at it as like the actors, you know, say Jack Nicholson was your favorite actor growing up, and then you get to like co-star, do a role with him, you know. It's like,
that's a good way of looking at it.
I would always like to bounce around and do a week at Alan's shop and a week at Bobby's shop, and you know, bounce around, go work with Dan Webb. Dan Webb's amazing.
Dan was on the podcast, man. Cool dude. I've always admired what he does.
That's another mind that works a little different.
A lot of people look at Dan as, you know, an amazing car builder.
Yeah.
He's given me the best father tips.
Really?
The best.
He's a guy that's like full of advice. I feel like he's loaded with life experiences.
Yeah. Outlooks and views.
He said, your little girl ever plays soccer, Henry. I'm going to tell you right now. He said, the first boy that trips her, he said, not only are you going to want to kick his butt, you're going to walk over and kick his dad's butt too. And I've seen that stuff go down. I was like, man, Dad was right.
Yeah.
He was on it.
Yeah, that's true.
So after the green sedan, I mean, what a ride that was. What starts coming after that?
So we started messing around with the chassis. One time you mentioned the MFG. What's the MFG stand for? So I always wanted to be a manufacturing shop, like make parts. When my dad was doing work throughout, you know, my younger life, it seemed like guys could always bring parts to the shop for builds, you know, and so if he was doing fab work, seemed like there was no problems, but when he's blocking on that same quarter panel 3-4 weeks later, they think they're getting soaked. Mm-hmm. So I thought, man, if I'm making parts, then it'd be just a little easier. And I learned a little bit of that out in Denver. So we started out making a subrail kit. And on the subrail kit, that's to put like a Model A body on a 32 frame.
Yep.
So that started right about the time I left Denver. And to this day, so I left Denver about 07, 08. We saw on average 2 to 3 of those kits a week.
Nice.
And I think sooner or later, there's got to be Model A bodies running out
Yeah.
for these silly subrail kits. But so after the green sedan, we got a lot of chassis orders for just like 32 style chassis and just pushing the Model A chassis thing a little bit. We were doing frames for Pete and Jake's. So all their Model A perimeter frames.
Okay.
And then I got a call from Norm Bradley. And that's when we started that 2020 Hot Rod of the Year build. So there was a few small projects between then that we didn't really finish. And I don't have the desire a lot of times to finish a full build.
Yeah.
I like doing the fab and then shipping that off to other shops. So there's a lot
Sure.
of cars out there that we've done a fab work on that the other shops take the credit. And
Yeah.
a lot of people ask if it bothers me. It's like, well, they bought the rights to it.
Check.
I got to pay bills. I got to provide for my family. Like,
all
I
had
don't
a
care
fun
whose
time
name's
doing
on
it.
it.
Yeah.
They may take the credit, but that's got your signature written all over it. I mean, I can tell a Steadfast chassis and just stance, wheels, tires from a fucking mile away. I mean, it's the look, dude. You've absolutely nailed the look. I mean, we're a chassis manufacturer, right? But there's been guys call and like try to twist our arm to build them a 32 chassis. Like, call Henry at Steadfast. Like it's the look, dude. Like, you know, we can get there by like kind of copying what you've done. But that's the look, you know. That's if you want a badass high boy hot rod or even fendered hot rod. I don't think there's anything out there. You know, I don't want to just keep tooting your horn here, but I don't think there's anything out there that sits like what you do. It's just fucking perfect.
So with what you guys have done with the spec, my next step at the shop is I would like to offer a Steadfast chassis as far as like the ride quality goes and the stance, but just back off of the arched cross members, the crazy motor mounts, and do something a little more like this is what you get. It's a pinched high boy frame. This is the rear end width, and kind of follow a little bit of that platform.
Sure.
Because I mean, we turn down a chassis or two a week.
I'm
I
sure
think
you
you know, because
Probably reach a lot bigger audience and you can produce more.
and sell them for a lot less. You know, I think our typical roller right now is in that 25 mark. And I mean, that's crazy when you look at, you know, you could have a Pro Touring chassis for less than that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same amount of work. You know?
Yeah.
It's all
You probably get more hours than some of the stuff that you're doing with
So
all those
each
crazy cross
chassis,
members and
I try
shapes.
to get everybody's parts laying there, the motor, the transmission, kind of build it as a custom chassis. And I always had this mindset because, dude, we used to get pretty rowdy.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I'm ever out drinking one night and I put one of these cars on its roof and the paramedics roll in, I want them to call their buddies and be like, dude, you got to come check out this chassis. Like, look at how he ran the brake lines. Like, look at these cross members. Like, Ford did such a good job on the body. Like, dude, you can't modify the body that much. So it's like, let's have fun under the chassis.
Right.
Let's.
And
That
then
makes a lot of
realistically,
sense.
that's the only time anybody's ever going to look at that shit.
Yeah, that's on its roof.
Yeah. I do get excited, you know, if we take something to a show and I see guys on their hands and knees, you know, looking underneath, it's like, cool.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part of the car. And, you know, most guys that are building hot rod chassis, they don't know anything about shock valving. They don't know anything about roll centers. They don't know anything about pickup points and why that's important. So they build these things in a bind right out of the bat.
Yeah.
And then they still ride like Model A's.
Yeah.
Sway bars, you know, most guys don't run sway bars. I drove a Model A one day, or a 32 without a sway bar, and I thought it was broke. Like, I was scared of it.
Yeah, it's kind of shocking. Some of the, like, I mean, there's some big name guys out there that just don't even, like, geometry is not even a thing. It's back to like the late 90s, early 2000s where they're control arms, right? It doesn't matter how long they are,
It's an attachment point.
where they bolt on, what angle they're at. They're just a thing that holds the spindle on, and
There's TV shows out there doing that too.
you put poly bushings in them and shocks.
Yep.
Spring retainers.
Yeah, spring return, right?
So I've been to a few schools, and we live not far from Mid-Ohio, you know. So it was a 2013 Camaro that I'd run at Mid-Ohio for a while. So I kept perfecting the chassis under our cars, and I would give guys rides, and, you know, I'm just having a good time. And I look over at their faces, and, like, I didn't fully get it until I rode with Paul up at Dutch Boys. He took me for a ride in his dad's Nova, and that's the first time I was ever in, like, a like a BA Pro Touring car.
Yeah.
And the whole time I'm in that thing, like I'm praying, like, God, don't let me die. God, don't let me die. Don't let me die.
Yeah.
I don't like fast cars. I'm going to build slow cars. Don't let me die. And as soon as I got out and looked back and realized I was alive, I was like, dude, I want one of those.
It's a game changer, man. I mean, we went from like, you know, early 2000s, all we were doing was 30s, 40s chassis. You know, it's mostly IFS stuff, but you know, a fair amount of dropped axles. And the first Chevelle we did, that 66 Chevelle, like what a fucking difference of, you were never like, ride quality wasn't even a thing. It wasn't like a word, right? It was just,
It went down the street.
yeah, it goes down. Let a little air out of the tires if you need to. There's a knob on the shock. You could turn it. Doesn't really do anything. But, you know, in the springs, I don't know, like just put different ones on it. Maybe thinner ones.
That's always shocks. Eye to eye. As long as it fits, bro.
Right. Yeah. But man, what a change that was. But it's funny after, 15 years of doing that, like your desire to go back the other direction and experience the hot rod stuff again. Because I think you can attest to this. The best hot rod chassis, I mean, even you put sway bars on it, you put the right shocks, all that stuff. But if it's a solid axle, it's still 1930s technology. You can make it way better.
Yep.
But it's nothing like what a full blown hardcore pro touring
No.
chassis. But it's not supposed to be, right?
Yep.
It's a hardtail chopper versus a super bike.
And then you start jonesing for that hardtail chopper every day.
Yeah, exactly.
The grass is always greener.
Yeah.
Want whatever you don't have.
Yeah.
Yep.
What where do you think the style, the stance, the look and all that stuff, where do you think that came from along the way? I mean, what stuff, like when you were young, like
So
was it
for-
magazines,
for me-
shows,
No, for me, it was always the Jimmy Smith drawings and the Josh Shaw drawings.
Yeah.
Crazy overemphasized proportions, big littles,
So it's
big
got to be
rake.
cartoons, just
Oh, yeah,
looking at
dude,
the way you build cars.
It was.
Yeah.
It was the art. It was always the hot rod art. And then it was like, I got to make it look just like that. So it's like when Jimmy draws something, Jim Smith,
Yeah.
it's like, and somebody builds the car, it's like, man, you totally missed that. You totally missed that.
it's
Like,
got a beat.
Right. It's the same color, but that's all you got out.
Yeah, right.
All you
Shell
took
looks
out of
the
the
same.
rendering.
So like right now we're building a 3-window for Eric Moore, and I stretched the frame 3 inches. So it's right in the hood area. And then I stretch the fenders where they start to roll up. So they're stretched up and out. So I
Okay.
can run a
So they're-
big inch wheel up front and get it to sit right.
That's cool.
And then the hood's a little longer, and it also kind of gives it that like that sectioned look in the grill.
Yeah.
And then it flows back up, and then so when I chop the top, I put a small wedge in the top, but then I went above, like on the 3-window, how the top's really symmetrical.
Yep.
So I wedge cut the top of the chop or the top of the roof, so it looks more like a 32 5-window rooftop. And it's
Took
like,
the forehead out of it.
yeah, exactly. And then change the roof insert shape. So it's got a little bit more of that 5-window roof insert. And it's like, that car looks like the drawing now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so many of those cars, they don't hit it, but it's like, I feel like, man, if they hit it, Greening made a set of 18-inch wheels for the back so that we can have that Trick 8 look that,
Sure.
but they're big, like one of his drawings. And
Sweet.
I feel like the only thing missing from totally nailing the cartoon proportions is you need an axle. You need a solid axle that has like a 2-inch recess in the front of it, so you can like draw the grill shell and the radiator back to be like perfectly on center line of the wheel.
so what I do on my cross members is I'll flatten the front of the cross member and shove that forward 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah.
And then I've been machining some shackles. So when I machine the shackles, I can bump that axle forward, like you said, to keep everything lined up. But the hood and stuff stays in proportion to the car.
Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah.
That side profile, just seeing that thing
It's
intersect
dead
center line.
Yeah.
So with that car, I want to take that one step further. I've been dropping little things and kind of calling good guys out a little bit, but I'm ready for them to run Street Rod of the Year on the autocross course.
Yeah.
Street Rod's never going to evolve if we keep parking them in a building.
Yep.
Hot Rod hits a drag strip, they take a cruise. Street Machine,
They're
you guys
taking them
go
off
out?
the autocross now. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, Street Machine doesn't do autocross
I
this
think
year.
they had too many people bitching, I'm assuming.
yeah,
Is that
so it's just a
Build a car to drive.
exactly?
If they it should be just like Hot Rod of the Year. Check. If they don't hit the autocross course, or if they sandbag the autocross course,
Yeah.
no check. Same with the street rods. It's like nobody's going to keep building street rods when they see 69 Camaros out running around a course. That's fun.
For some reason, everybody thinks that is going out there to tear them up. Like you're going to go tear the car up to run it around the autocross.
If you can't build it right, then maybe. Yeah.
Don't shoot the
Do
messenger.
you,
It's
do you
just-
feel that way?
I do not. I do not.
No, it feels
He might
obvious.
feel that way after
It feels obviously shown that he does not feel that way. Yeah, the street machines are coming off the autocross. They're going to do a parade lap.
Oh, that's no good.
That's weak.
Yeah. Same with street rod. You know, it's like you see a lot of cars that sit awesome, but I've actually had 2 cars that were top 5 cars in my shop. Guys couldn't drive.
Yeah.
They wouldn't idle. The one guy couldn't fit in, and I had a friend smaller than you. He couldn't work the clutch and the brake between the
small.
steering wheel, and the guy that owns the car is bigger than I am.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, dude, if you can't drive those things around an autocross, if you got a full fendered 3 windows sitting right, how much cooler is that car going to be if you see a guy actually out there running it and you're not blowing the paint
look
off
what
the
they've
fenders?
done with Hot Rod of the Year. Look at
Yeah, it's
that.
been a game changer.
That's not an easy feat for some of those cars to do what they're asking them to do.
Truck late. Make them go to Lowe's. Throw something in the bed. Take it to the autocross course. Come on.
Haul some load of mulch.
Or at least a cooler, right?
Ain't nothing but fucking long beds being built there. You can fit a full sheet.
And Jeff Greening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a cooler. Did
Yep.
you guys see what he did with his Dakota digital gauges?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. Wait, cooler temp?
He put a temp sensor in the cooler.
Yeah.
Dude, I love him.
Yeah, Jeff's awesome, man. We just call him Dad.
Yep.
Dad.
Yep.
Wearing the shirt.
I think that.
I think I showed that cooler temp off to people more than anything else at Columbus last year.
Yeah. There's 2 things that Jeff will tell you every time. This is about his new shoes and his cooler temp.
new shoes. But I mean, we're not trying to call out good guys, right? But the emphasis on the driving thing, we talk about it all the time. I know people are probably sick of hearing about it. You can still make a badass, nice ass car. You could make a Riddler level car and still make it drive.
Yep. And
You
maybe
should be able to.
calling them out might not be the right word, but it's like, unfortunately, they hand out the awards. You know, they set the precedence of like what is cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They can change the standard of this industry if they want, you know, and that's like change the standard of a street rod.
Sure.
Let's make it so guys can drive them again. I've heard a few people say that's not what street rods were made for, but my mom told me stories back when she was driving her T-Bucket.
That's all they used to do.
In SRA, they used to have some course where they'd go around and pop the balloons with the front tires, and that would have been like an autocross course.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. Let's use Columbus as an example. Look at the inside the Celeste Center when the street rod finalists and the street machine finalists are in there. And you take a snapshot during the day, right? When those cars are in there and who's looking at those cars. The overwhelming majority, you got builders in there that are cleaning up. You're going to see what's in there, you're running through. The overwhelming majority of the people that are in there are spectators, right? Those people that pay their tickets, they've done their thing. Those people are important. Now, take a snapshot of Friday and Saturday night at the host hotel and look at the people that are there. Look at the people that have driven those cars to that parking lot and are using those vehicles, right, and doing the things that you're supposed to do.
They're having way more fun.
Yep.
They're having way more fun. And in general, I think it's more of the core audience that is there having fun and using those vehicles like they're intended to be versus looking at it in their static environment.
Yep.
I mean, you've got to see like the writing on the wall of like where the direction is going. You can still make nice ass cars, but you can't.
Well, you guys have seen
pull
that.
away and say, "Don't make them work anymore."
Well, you guys have seen that with the Survivor cars.
Yeah.
How many of your customers with the super nice shiny painted cars prefer to drive their Survivor car?
100% of it.
That's where that whole market came from.
Yeah.
Is they're scared to drive the super pretty one 'cause it's a $50,000 paint chip. So
Yep.
I want something unique and special that nobody else can have. Here's a killer patina 67 Camaro. Or
The Survivors, and this is great. I think it's fucking awesome. The Survivors are now basically at the infancy of street rods and because they're going the route of just like we did with Pro Touring and just like everything. Because now they're getting higher end and higher end
yeah.
because all the shops and all the builders are trying to outdo each other. But all the customers too are like, well, you know, what would be really cool is like, let's start with an original Copo. Let's try one of those out.
Right.
I'll show these guys.
And then you keep trying, which it's awesome because I mean, we've got years and years and years of this, but they keep getting a little nicer and like, well, if we're going to do that, like, what about like, let's do traction control. Let's do like a crazy twin turbo. Let's like machine this intake to make it look like this one. And
they're evolving.
I think Jesse started that with that pissed off Valiant.
Yeah.
You know, that was one of the first cars you seen with patina paint, but had a lot of super sexy high-end machine parts on it.
Was that the one you helped patina? Or no, that was the F85.
That was a shiny car that we patinaed.
Yeah, Josh patinaed that car for him.
He pulled out in front of him in a gravel parking lot and
I did
laid
not.
on it.
Gravel road up behind you.
Go back and listen to episode 9, as a matter of fact, with Jesse Green. And we told the whole story of exactly how it happened. I was minding my own business. Jimmy decided to race. If he decided to race, I'm going to race. I won. I'm out in front, and it's a loose paved road.
There's a lot of gravel in the tires.
Hey, shit happens.
Yeah. Black's easy to touch up.
Yeah.
You know what? I said I'm
Do you
sorry
get a
like 3
Sharpie?
times. I'm honestly, I'm not sorry anymore. I'm tired of hearing that story. I said I was sorry. But I mean, back to the point, like these customers are having so much more fun. They're wanting to build multiple cars. I mean, it's quicker time of completion, and everything about them is they're used. I think it's going to continue to progress. I think that the show car, air quotes thing, is still a thing. That's what drives everything forward. I just think there needs to be some changes. I mean, I think you've got a big difference in, you look at like the Slonaker and the majority of those cars. I mean, you look at the one that won this year, Steve Cook's car, that thing could drive all day long.
Yeah.
Get out there, run it, perform, drive it. He does that with his cars, and that thing won. You look at Riddler winners, not so much.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know if that does the positive for the industry that we would like. I don't know. It's a question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
You got to have an ass for every seat.
Yep. I think they're all
You
important.
need a couple of...
You got to have the ones that are pushing build levels.
Yep.
Pushing ideas. You got to have the ones that are fun to drive.
Yep.
Like you said, the butt for every seat is the best.
Where's the hot rod stuff going, though? I mean, you're probably the best example of, like, the fact that it's strong because you've got a shop full of kick-ass traditional cars. But, like, big picture looking at it, at least for us, in our shop, it's dead, right? And, I mean, we don't build that type of car, but we did used to build that type of chassis, and it disappeared. Do you think that comes back? Do you think it's found its? Do you think it's leveled off?
I mean, if you really want to look long term, there used to be guys sitting there having the same conversation about buggies, and you don't even see them in the junkyard anymore. Like, oh man, buggies will be forever. So it's like Model Ts. I don't know anybody that wants a Model T, wants to build a Model T or anything.
Yeah.
At some point, I could see it starting to phase out. 32s, I think those will be available for a while. People will still want those for a while, but a lot of the bigger shops, like we're having a crazy hard time, like Vintique's getting headlights, getting trim pieces. So like a lot of I would say the era of the guys that were making parts for those cars are dying fast or just getting out of business. LeBaron Bonney didn't make tops anymore. So it just, I think there's a lot with that.
Days are numbered on that, huh?
Yeah. I mean, there was a time where last year, like 34 Ford headlights, like repop headlights, you could get like 4 times what they asked for them if you had a set because Ventique couldn't produce them. That's been a really hard thing. Now, I'm sure you guys have seen it with other things too, but for us, it's getting a lot of the parts. Like nobody's making a quality grill insert except for Alumacraft. We can't get a good insert for the shells anymore. And
you think that's...
I think even back in the day, that was always an issue. I mean, we were always like, if you came across some grill shells or Lobeck had the rubber-covered running boards, like you grabbed a couple sets of those because they were so hard to find. And
I just wonder if that's
Smaller
more
market.
more of like a COVID thing than it is like I don't know, the fact that it's maybe phasing out or not as popular. I mean,
I've heard of a lot of
the
a lot of the shops like coming up for sale.
Yeah, but that's stuff. I mean, they got to be. I'd imagine Ventique stamping that stuff overseas, right? They're
doing some stuff overseas.
I wonder if that
That
affected that.
that could be part of that too. But
The demand's not there. Hard to stock that much stuff for that
Yeah.
wide a scope of cars if you only have a handful of people building them compared to thousands.
Because, I mean, other than the home builders, I mean, you guys see what most shops are doing right now, and there's not an abundance of Model A's or 32s being built.
No.
Compared to the later model stuff.
Yeah, 2006, 7, 8, we were building 400 or 500 pre-35 Ford chassis a year. Mm-hmm. How many have we built in the last 3 years?
Less than 5.
Yeah, probably one. Like Jerry's Model A.
Yeah, Jerry's Model A. That's the last Deuce chassis we've built, and that was probably 5 years ago.
I think a lot of times, too, if you look at the age range of maybe some of the guys spending the money, you know, it's like the guys that have spent the money that wanted those cars when they were kids or in high school, you know, once they get that money, there's a certain age range. Like right now, the cars that are coming on are like the 80s Mustangs, Camaros, and I never seen the day a guy would build a Grand National. Like
Yeah, who would do something like that?
Idiots.
Dan Webby always says, I'll never build a car that I could have drove to high school.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, we knew it was like we always talk about it, right? Everybody wants what they wanted when they were in high school, but
I bet the Honda Civics, the Eclipses, everything that was hot, fast, and the Furious, like that's the stuff that's going to come on right now.
Hey,
dude,
no,
he was just telling me today. He was going off on it, like got all giddy talking about you ain't never experienced nothing like being behind the wheel of a damn Civic. That sucker shits and gets.
That VTEC kicks in.
400 horsepower fucking Civic. Yeah, but I'm not saying it's going to ever be that. You look at the prices though of some of those things. I mean, I was looking this morning on Bring a Trailer. There's like a 11,000 mile.
You talking about the Probe GT that we were looking at?
No,
what did it
stop talking about the Probe GTs.
What did it end up selling for?
I didn't never see because that thing's going to get out of hand. Right? I'm going to have a Probe GT.
Corner that market.
I'm going to have a Probe GT. There was like a 90 Accord Coupe with like 11,000 miles on it. Whatever. I think it was like at $18,000.
Yep.
Jeez.
And like Civic Type R's and any of the Integras and stuff like that, whatever, those are 30 and 40 grand.
But you got to think
that was a like less than $20,000 car, brand new.
Those kids might have wanted to build one of those Fast and the Furious cars when they were in high school and couldn't afford it. Now they're established. They've got their families. They've got all that. So
it would be a guy just like me at 45 years old, right? I mean, my interests are a little bit different, but some interests haven't changed, whatever. There's guys out there right now hunting, you know, a low mileage Civic Type R.
Hey, what if you had an NOS tank?
Yeah.
I've got
one in the back of my Camaro.
I've got one in my basement. I've got an NOS tank.
Late 90s.
Yeah.
What are you going to do when all that hits? You're not going to have enough hair to do the cheetah print thing again to go with the car.
It'll be easier to dye it, though, because it's all like white and gray now.
Yeah, it's already white. You just got to dye the black part. It's the opposite. It's the inverse, right?
It's snow leopard.
I'll figure it out. That was pretty good.
Yeah, and I hope we don't have to relive that whole Fast and the Furious thing, though.
No, I don't think they'll be modified in that way, but I think that the original car, especially the ones that everybody, because the people that are buying a Civic Type R or an Integra Type R or an S2000 nowadays, those were not cars that they could have afforded back then.
Right.
They had the DX or they had the base model. They had modifications. That was ones that they looked up to. So now they're going to go back and fulfill that dream, spend the 45, 50. I mean, some of the S2000s are getting crazy on prices.
Yeah.
But you're going to leave that as a collector car, right? And it's fine. It's just, I mean,
there was some cool stuff in there. I wouldn't mind like a 3000 GT. I wouldn't mind having one.
a VR4?
I don't know the details of it, but it's a 3000 GT.
I feel I'd like to have an Eclipse.
I would not like to have an Eclipse.
You'd like to have a Talon. That's your arch nemesis.
Yeah. Bad memories.
Yeah.
Those things, I'm telling you what, it's the fastest.
I can
Yeah.
I'll tell you all about it.
Dude, back when that came out, I had to have an Eclipse. My dad told me, he said, you park an Eclipse in my driveway, you're getting kicked out of the house. So then I started building a Model A coupe.
Good change.
You ever got the Eclipse?
Nice pivot.
Yeah.
Nope.
I could see the Eclipse in there. I could have seen the Eclipse with Marlboro Lights, a pack of Marlboro Lights in the cup holder, for sure.
So, on the traditional hot rod stuff, do you think there'll be a market for almost survivor traditional hot rods? You've got all like the super old guys that had like the real nice restoration 3540s, a Phaeton or coupe or something like that, to take an already restored car, put it on a chassis, blown flathead or something in it. Do you think that's going to be there?
I don't know.
Or you need to cut it up to make it look cool?
Yeah, I would cut it up to make it look cool. But yeah, I don't want to say that it's dead, but it isn't what you would think. So I think most guys that are building hot rods are doing a lot of stuff like, so with the chassis thing, building them in their home. Yeah. Trying to put it together themselves. There's a lot of cars will do like the fab on to a certain point, and the guy will take it home and finish home building, but he can't, make the exhaust or do some of that stuff. So yeah, the 32s I've noticed over the last 3 years, the prices have really tanked on those for done cars.
I think the problem when you look at trying to treat it like the Survivor stuff is that it's so much money to do. Like all the mechanicals still cost a fortune. There's nothing that's gotten cheaper. It's gotten more expensive. Like if you're going to go do a damn Hemi, an early Hemi, price one of those things out through like hotheads and build one. I mean, it's a nasty LS motor. It's a 1,400 horsepower LS motor, but you're making like 600 horsepower. It's same. I mean, you're going to do a blown Arden or a blown flathead's like you get one from Mike at H&H, which is it's a masterpiece, but it's like a piece of art, and it's huge money. Again, that's 1,000 horsepower Whipple charged LS motor.
Yeah, that's a 214 horsepower.
Yeah, but the price is the same. Right?
Dude, we put our first flathead in something, and I grew up running small black Chevys. That's what I could afford, and they were cheap. They were easy to fix. If we were on the road, I don't know a lot about motors, but any hillbilly could help me fix it on the side of the road. And so we got this first flathead car done, and man, it sucks.
Sounds cool.
Awesome.
Sounds amazing.
Oh,
Looks gorgeous.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
We ended up putting like a 5.0 gear in the back of it's the 2829 pickup just to get it to move.
Oh, it's like a transgender. No fucking balls.
But it sounds like a top fuel dragster.
Shots fired at Mike there.
You had that one fucking
I love them. They
So you
look
like
awesome.
looking at them?
I love everything about. I love,
love what?
you can make them.
You love what? What are you talking
flatheads?
Oh, okay.
I love
The transgenders.
everything about them. But man, as soon as you just roll into that throttle, it's just got that like wet, mushy, just
Yep.
It just ain't got no ass, no balls. What's so wrong about that?
There's no boundaries here.
Who's that gonna offend?
There's a group. There's a group in a defense.
Oh, I'm sure we got a huge audience of the trannies.
Do we have an email address they can send their hate mail to?
Yeah.
You got a personal one, not a shop one?
Yeah,
You got an AOL. You got an AOL?
yeah, I still got an AOL.
What is it?
Hit him up on Messenger.
I think it's Josh6969 AOL.
The 69 was
90.
the go-to back in,
That or
back in
97.
the 90s, right?
97 is the year I graduated. I used 97 a lot. Yeah. 97.
Dude, so
FGL.
yeah, what I'm curious about is the coolest thing. What I love admiring on your Instagram more so than I think the bitchin' cars you build. Your fucking shop. Your shop is badass. When did that come about? When was that transition? What was the thought process? Where is it? Is it in your backyard?
It's in the
close-
backyard. Yeah, right down the hill from the house. So I always tell the wife I would like to have a zip line from the house to the garage. She said, I don't need a zip line. I need exercise. But I've been
You
dreaming
gotta walk
about
back one way.
right.
Yeah.
But I've been dreaming about the shop for a long time, and I'm slowly saving up money while we're working, at the shop uptown, and I wanted a shop that didn't look like a typical shop.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel more like home when my customers come in. I wanted to be something, just a little different. So
Yeah, I
You
love
did
it,
that.
man.
Awesome facility. Actually,
We should pull
we've
it
got
up.
the technology.
So the rough cut wood along the top of the shop, those were all trees that we cut down. I had some friends, they came in from church with their portable sawmill and
those are
cut those
boards
all
now.
out.
Milled
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, not trees anymore. Mill them down.
Yeah, they milled them all down and got them hung up.
Hey, just look at the stance in that 3-window. God damn. That side profile. That's
So that car belongs
where-
to
did
the
you-
Hot Rod of the Year owner.
Did it really?
And he loves that car. He drives that way more than the...
Tell me you didn't flatten the top of the wheel and tire.
Nope.
On that, in the front wheel tire, get it to sit like that.
Nope.
It's got a caster underneath it.
Yeah.
Cut 2 inches off the top.
That looks wicked.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's everything's got that cartoonish proportion and just yeah, looks badass how they should.
Taking the dive into that new building, what are the nerves like on that? Are you
the new building was put up by a couple of friends, Kenny and Steve, and then my father-in-law Paul and his brothers. And going into that building I learned a lot when I was out in Denver.
Yeah.
And what I learned was, if you can't afford to pay cash for it, you don't need it.
Sure.
So I did that with a stretcher shrinker when I was building my sub-rail kits. And then I'd go shear them and I'd break them at another shop. And then I'd build these kits. Well, eventually I could afford a shear and eventually I could afford a break. So long story short, when we got to the shop, along the way I found out while I was building chassis, if I could take a 32 chassis, put a Brookville body on it, I could a little over double my money.
Yeah.
So I started making rollers. Well, one roller turned into another roller, and then, I kept popping out these rollers.
Yep.
Well, then there came a point where the Model A's and the 32 rollers started to kind of take a dive, and I think I've done maybe 7 69 Camaro rollers now.
Damn.
And, they'll end up on your chassis. I've done some Detroit speed stuff.
Sure.
And you set up a 69 Camaro in bare steel with one of your chassis under it, I could almost triple my money. And
it's a good move.
But what I found
Not
out
anymore.
So what I found out is, you take consumers in a whole, buying TVs, trash cans, golf clubs, whatever, and then you knock it down to they're buying cars. Well, if you take it to, they're buying, say, a 1932 Ford, you just knocked out all the truck guys, you knocked out all the Camaro guys and all that. You really want to limit that market, put a color on it, an interior and all that. So what I noticed early on is I was selling rollers for almost as much as guys were selling done cars for. And we'd try to get all the hard work done to where a home builder could take that thing home. So the Camaros we've been doing, they're set up smooth firewalls. I'll do the exhaust provisions, raise the tunnel for a 6-speed, try to get all the fab stuff done so a guy can pull it out of our shop and then take it to his and pretty much finish building it. And so by doing that and then taking that profit and kind of putting it back when we were building the shop, for the most part, up until the very end, I was able to pay cash all the way through the shop build. The reason I wanted to do that is I've always had the upper hand on, if I want to do a cool set of motor mounts on a customer car and get lost in them, I don't have to charge them through the roof.
Sure.
There's times that I'll try to throw in a trans tunnel or just something small, just to make them feel good.
That particular set of motor mounts isn't going to put the dinner on your table.
Yeah.
That night you can.
But because I don't have the overhead that I seen rob a lot of guys, we're able to do some of that. My guys, I try to take good care of them. We've got 6 guys there. Robert Mosey, he's been with me the longest. And, I try to help them guys with stuff. It's I try to remember, and that's one of the things I'd like to encourage shop owners. It's, why did those guys get into doing this in the first place? It's not a lot of time that you get to see those guys enjoying something.
Yep.
So, we'll ride up to the lake. It'll be a paid day and we'll take our Harleys or our hot rods up to the lake and hang out for the day. I know you can't do that all the time, but I want them to enjoy some of the fruits of that too.
Sure.
I seen one shop last week during the eclipse post a picture of the guys outside and another one of the shops commented oh, that was an expensive break.
Yeah.
And it's man, you know what our guys do for us. Sometimes we got to let them, experience a little bit of life. And
sure.
So being able to not always have that overhead and, trying to pay for machinery a lot of times has helped us be able to kind of keep it into perspective and be able to enjoy life.
Smart thinking. Good ideas.
I wonder about that a lot on the machinery side, because you see a ton of it on Instagram with the Bailey Army, right? That's not a cheap fucking machine. You look at some of those big power hammers, and it seems like that's the recipe. You've got to start a shop, make your t-shirts, get a power hammer. That's fucking $25,000.
Yep. Well, I remember when I first started, I made fun of the tools a little bit as I got heart. I don't have to have that big expensive tool. Yeah. Then the first time Clay shows me what, you can do on a pull max, it's like, no, I got to have that tool. Like, I'm not cutting and dicing and MIG welding that up. So.
Yeah. All right. Standard question time. You ready?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
You ready?
I'm not ready.
Get ready.
I'm ready now.
Yeah, okay, good. All right. Best car movie and why?
So I've been thinking about this for like a week. Can it be a bike movie?
Yeah.
Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
Great flick.
Yes.
Dude, I love that movie.
Didn't you get?
I've got a brand
just
new.
watch that, like babysit and watch that. Or
That
something?
was Easy Rider.
Oh, okay.
But Harley and the Marlboro Man was shortly thereafter.
Dude, I've got a brand new Road Glide and bare steel. Half of my hot rods are in bare steel. I think that movie ruined me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You a Mickey Rourke fan or Don Johnson fan? Are the two of them?
Nah, I'd have been a Mickey Rourke fan. Better to be dead and cool than alive and uncool.
He was so fucking badass.
Dude, it's the best.
Man, I bet it's been 20 years since I've seen that.
Oh, I've seen it recently.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I watch that movie at least once a year.
I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna watch it this weekend.
It's the
I'll
best.
go back to it.
Do you have the jacket?
No, I need the jacket.
That's pretty badass.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think you could look as cool as him? Like if you put the leather pants on, the jacket, and had that bike, you think you could? Think you'd have Mickey Rourke level of cool?
Me?
Just any of us?
No.
I mean, no.
No, dude.
Mickey
Yeah.
Rourke is a different level.
Yeah.
Different level of cool.
Yep.
The bike thing you said you're just doing that on the side, just a hobby thing.
Yeah. So right around COVID time, I lost 2 helpers and it wrecked me pretty hard. I had a lot of time invested in one of them in particular. And so I was down and sad, and Jeremy was getting ready to start his next bike build, Jeremy Sr. at Lucky Strike. And so he asked me to ride out to Milwaukee with him and get a bike. I was like, I'm not going to leave the shop, man. He's like, come out. You need to get out of the shop for a couple days. He said, just come out, pick my bike up with me. And I thought about it for a couple minutes. I was like, tell you what, call them up, tell them I want a 2020 Road Glide. It was, So I told my sister, I was like, hey, Laura, I try to be a responsible boss, man, and keep money back for the guys. I was like, we're going to get in the payroll account. I'm doing something for me. Dude, I bought that bike. We flew out, rode these bikes home, and I didn't quit smiling. And then Jeremy introduced me to the performance bagger game. So I was like, hey,
And
Laura.
you reach back into that account.
I know Nelson and Chuck both had some wages hanging out there. Like, now I've got like 65 grand in a Harley Road Glide. But there's not a time I get on that bike that I don't smile.
Yeah.
So, and then Jeremy, I help him do stuff on his bikes, the fab, and
You do all his paint work, right?
yeah. I put Jeremy on the
Little
map.
known secret.
So yeah, we've had fun. Jeremy, when we got the green sedan done, it was like, I don't know, maybe a month or so after Columbus, he walks into the shop with this grill shell all painted up, and he's like, I just thought I'd bring this to you, and we clicked, and so he's doing the bike thing with him's been fun. So yeah, don't charge for bike work. I just help Jeremy because he's cool. And
Yeah, he's a great dude. Really good dude.
You not building any bikes for customers or nothing?
You were just talking about it, Josh.
I know. I need a bike fucking built.
Yeah. You said if you get a deal, he's talking about doing it for free.
That's a pretty good deal. Pretty good deal.
yeah,
I can't make up my mind what I want yet.
We all know what you want. You want
Yeah.
a Cholo style, like,
Yeah,
Nice.
I want a soft tail deluxe, but with 21 and 18 and
I've always had
Tail
lowered
dragger.
bikes, and man, there's something about like a lifted Road Glide. When
I
you get
rode
on
the
them
shit
back
out of
roads.
Jeremy's bike when he
Oh,
came
yeah.
through here, and that kind of changed me. I'd like to maybe do a lowrider ST or something like that. Something still a little more nimble. That is fun when you can start getting rolling. That center of gravity. I don't care about all the carbon fiber and shit like that. It's still a big ass fucking bike.
I couldn't get it off the kickstand.
It's a bit in the center of gravity thing is like when it's parked and you're slow. When you start rolling, like the gyro effect and shit like that,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really
It's
fucking
nuts.
cool.
you know what?
you can
Almost,
do.
as cool as it is, they kind of have a little bit of a look like a fat chick with skinny legs. You know, it's just kind of like,
Yeah,
It's all up high.
I'd like
always-
to do a lowrider ST or something, but like hopped up. You can do 131 on those things now and stuff, but I still come when you talking about like back to old school.
Yeah.
Especially taking a ride in your new little toy. I just a hardtail knucklehead or something like that just starts speaking to me. Just bare bones, the little bit about that I'm gonna drive, like just small rabbit ears and knucklehead and hardtail, skinny tire, just a bar hopper. It's kind of what I'm looking at, but I don't know. All over the map. We talked about this. I'd like to be able to be on the other side of the table for once instead of pleasing a customer.
Be pleased.
Just do something cool.
Yeah.
We've never been able to be in that opportunity. And I think it'd be really cool on a bike build, especially.
I just had to
can't
do
do a car build.
I just had to do it, and I got to give a shout out to that dude because we're talking about old school fucking hot rods. I just picked up a 28 Model A, and it was on opposing cylinders. You follow him, Kevin?
Yep.
And it was just like, when you see Model A's for sale, they're always something that just misses the mark wildly. It'll be like a blown flathead and then a GM tilt column with like Chrysler Sebring bucket seats or something.
Dolphin gauges.
Exactly. And this, for the first time, this thing pops up and I'm like, oh shit, it's got the look. And I'm looking into it more and more and more. I'm like, holy fuck, it's perfect. Like 354 Hemi, log manifold, 694s on it. It's just every single thing is perfect, period correct, banjo rear end. Like it's just tits. So this dude, I think his name's Gil Gaudet, and I might massacre that, but the guy built it himself out of Canada, and it was such a cool fucking experience because the car is fucking awesome. And this dude, he's a machinist. Spent 7 years building the car. Did everything, every single thing himself. Built the manifolds. He worked at a body shop. Went and worked at a body shop to get credit to use the body shop to paint the car. In hindsight, the only thing about the car is maybe you should just let the body shop paint the car. But the car, it's fucking absolutely bitching. And man, I'm so impressed with the guy's story. He sold it so that he can put the money towards doing a 51 Merc. And he was inspired by the 51 Merc from American Graffiti. Gil, he's fucking Gil Gonzalez's car, So it's really cool. But you should check this fucker out. You may have seen this car because it's not as cool as the stuff you do, but it's fucking close. Like it is bitching.
It's well done, really well done.
He's gonna take it all apart, cut it all up.
No. That's the reason I'm not fucking touching it.
No,
because it legitimately is. It's like perfect.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
It just you start getting back like nostalgic, right? And you kind of enjoy the things that you've progressed past. You're like, oh man, I remember those days. I remember that, and that's kind of you kind of. It's funny how at that point, like I know right now, you're jonesing for it to stop raining, like and get back out and drive that.
Yeah,
like
I'll daily it because I spent years driving things that don't really drive, that probably shouldn't be.
You don't have to drive; they drive themselves.
Well, now they do, yeah. But back in the day, you were used to that driving stuff that's like
pretty
fairly sketchy.
Yeah.
So for me, getting in it, it's like second nature. One hand on the wheel.
It's been a while since you've been like looking forward to getting out and doing the drive, right?
Yeah,
and
right,
driving it and riding it, whatever.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's funny.
That's my shout out. I don't do a lot of them.
He did a phenomenal job, and he deserves a shout out.
Yeah,
and congrats to you. It's fucking nice.
Thank you.
And it's the thing about it is it's chopped just enough where you can't even see your face driving it. That's what honestly what I like the best.
It's really low.
Yeah,
I'm kind of.
So you have no idea who's riding it.
You can't see my beautiful face.
No, not even a little bit.
It's gonna change the seat now.
Kind of the best thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a booster seat on that front center,
sticking out of the roof like rat fink.
Top on snaps, dude. I could come right up the top.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, you couldn't.
No, I
He stood up.
Yeah. I will say.
Next question.
Dude was a big.
Next
dude
question.
was a big boy.
Yeah, he was.
It's got all the room in it, and I had to choke up to get up on it.
I said it, and I'm like, dude, fucking seat's got to come forward. Like, is it on tracks? Can we slide it? I can barely get to the pedals.
Yeah, but once you get rolling, you're like, it's nice to be able to like lay back and cruise. All right, we do the first car thing. You guys feeling anything? You feel like a guess?
It hasn't struck me.
All right, well, we're going with it anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm coming off of quite the win.
With
the Kobe.
You're like year, make, model, and color. on the last one. That's pretty good.
I think he was down to the option code. He picked
Quite
3
the
of the
win
4.
on old Kobe from Church Equipped. So
I think I got.
if you
I got
listen to a
something.
couple of them, you know we do the first car thing, right? And then sometimes we want to guess. So how old are you?
40.
40. So you graduated high school in 94?
02.
Oh, sorry, 02. I got to add to the other side.
I don't think he graduated high school.
I didn't.
It just hit me. Just hit me.
So your first car, how far before 16 was it?
How far before 16?
Yeah. Did you get your first car?
Well, you got the
Did you
car
get your
later.
first car
when he
at
was
16?
2 months old.
Yeah, that's, I know. We're not
Yeah,
talking
3
about
months old. The first driving car would have been right around 16.
that. Okay, right around 16. Okay. Right around 16, so then that would have been 2000. 2000. You got something?
I got something.
Go first, then.
Dude,
Go first. I'm
It's
thrown
out
off.
there. It's more of just like a humor thing, but it's quite possible that I could hit the nail on the head
S10
here.
Extreme. I'm
No.
going S10 Extreme.
No, it's a
I'm going S10 Extreme.
square body style S10, flat black with red steelies, because you were into the hot rod. You were into the hot rod shit, and it was V8 swapped. It had like some worn out 350 in it.
I'm going white extended cab S10 Extreme. That's where I'm going.
And I was going square body S10 as well, just going off the race and Josh Shaw history. And
Everybody's fell on S10s.
S10 Extreme. That's
Either
where I'm
we're
going.
all wildly off or we're on it.
Your guys are close with the square body. So it was a 78 full size short bed.
Shit,
Came out of
okay.
California, slammed on the ground. Had like the silver truck rallies on it, like a
Okay.
gold patina paint. So, yeah, we called it the low ruster. Once that California truck with patina started hitting Ohio weather in the winter, it was
didn't
bad.
last.
You
No.
drove it through the winter too?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I was a kid.
Yeah.
I took my driving test in that thing on a snow day. And that Dad said when we lowered that truck, it had to be so low if it overheated that we could pee in the radiator.
The cross member, like you had to be what,
There's
2.5 inches.
There's a couple nights we hit railroad tracks in that thing and stopped dead on.
It was rough. Those cross members are so low when you get that low.
There's not much to the chassis either. That sucker would have been like,
Oh, it was nuts. The control arms, we put a couple sets of control arms on it, and there was nights that like Racing Josh and them guys would come to town. I graduated to a 2000 full size extended cab then, and I had that thing so low that if we were all going out hopping bars, dude, we'd have 6 guys in that thing, and we'd come around like a country road and peel the reflectors off the road, and it was a static drop truck.
Beltec.
Yep,
What color was that truck?
it was pewter.
Oh, damn. I thought I was going to get a win with the white. Extended cab. All right.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a little big for an S10.
that's true.
So
we
through high school,
overlooked
I
that.
was always over the 300 mark. So, yeah,
All right,
Overlook- I
should've
just-
thought about
I
that.
just had
I
that.
just see you as the size you are now, always. I really saw the S10 Extreme.
I just had that hot rod.
You
like,
went.
vision.
I like that. That's a
The
little
big,
dirtbag.
big sidewall, like fucking
spider
tires.
caps on there.
Yeah, maybe.
yeah, there you go.
Best piece of advice you've ever received.
I would say when I worked out in Reno with the guys that ran Rod Bots, I started getting kind of frustrated one day because we were kind of on a timeline. They ran me through building those bodies, the 32 Ford Roadster bodies, and then we moved that back to Denver, and Todd called it the Denver Deuce.
Yeah.
And I knew that I had like a small amount of time to get everything down. And the one guy, Chris, he looks at me and says, Henry, just slow down. Slow down. He said, you slow down, you're going to be way faster. And I tell all my guys that, like, I don't care how fast you do it. I care how good you do it. And then the next time you do it, you're going to be a little faster. And the next time you'll be a little faster.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of the better pieces of advice.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
good.
If you weren't doing anything, if you were doing something different than what you're doing now, what would it be?
I would be a janitor at an elementary school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the reason?
Choice.
Oh yeah, man. I was in there one day, hanging out with my daughter, doing lunch, and this little kid, he dropped his tray, tripped, and he was a wreck.
Yeah.
and the janitor wasn't around. His bucket was around, and I went over and cleaned it all up for him. And dude, the look he gave me, like I looked like a hero in his eyes. And I thought, man, I haven't seen that with any of my customers. You know, I mean, I get that a little bit, but it's just,
I could see that.
yeah. I just thought, man, that would be a blast.
That's something. I think that's an interesting profession. When we were kids, the janitor,
Mr. Steve.
oh yeah, the janitor was a fucking badass. Right? Like there was the like teachers, then there was the vice principal, the principal, and then the fucking janitor. Mr. Steve.
Yeah.
Was
fuck with
oh
Mr.
man,
Steve.
like you'd fuck around in class, and I'd
you'd
fuck around
find out.
with the I'd fuck around with the principal. I was always getting in trouble. The one dude I would not was Mr. Steve, the janitor.
Yep.
I had the utmost respect for him.
Really?
Oh yeah. The keys hanging,
bunch
the
of keys.
Dickies pants. It's like there was something about just the look, the demeanor, and what they did that you like respected the hell out of them back then.
So the school's maybe 1.5 miles from the shop. So when I'm done building hot rods someday, I'm going to roll in a super sweet hot rod or a bike, park that thing in the parking lot, and that's what I'm going to be doing.
That makes a lot of sense. I have it.
Dude, there's a lot of hot teachers and moms there, too. Just so you know.
Yeah, I hear about. We didn't have that shit when we were kids, but the stories, the shit you see in the news now, like, oh, I wish that happened. when we
I've
were
never,
kids.
I've never wanted to be a
Yeah.
janitor. It's never been in my head. But I remember being, you know, when my kids were little and going to do, you know, some of the school stuff, and you would have, you know, opportunities where you would help a kid out, you do some stuff, and you see that look in that eye, and at the times you're kind of like, man, I just want to tell you, like, you're like 9 years old, you're like so worried about that group, like you need to like tell them to fuck off, and everything's gonna be fine, and those kids don't matter, and you're gonna be like on this. There's like you see some. I mean, again,
And guys, just like we were talking with guys being in the shop, no matter what career you're in, it's like there's a lack of dads out there.
Yeah.
Like these kids are looking for somebody to look up to.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why not the janitor that drives the hot rod to school that's helping him beat
yeah.
up the kids that are picking on him? You know?
Hey, that's
I'll be in the closet teaching them jujitsu.
cool.
Like, hey, this is how you crack it in the face.
it could be one of the greatest answers in the history of this podcast. It makes so much sense because if you can help and change things at that age,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's
you
where it
got a-
starts.
you
You
got a
can't
purple
wait
hair one
until
coming
they're
through
all
there,
messed
and you
up.
grab them by the ear and like, let me tell you something right here. Yeah, that's the bathroom you go into.
Purple hair one.
Yeah, what the fuck?
That's the bathroom you go. That's where you go in there, stand up to pee, and that's where we do things. You change things at 9 years old, man.
We may have just arrived at like the solution to all the world's problems.
100%. If you come back with more janitor Steves,
Mr. Steve.
Mr. Steve.
You respected him. He wasn't just Steve. It was
All right.
Mr. Steve.
Mr. Steve.
Otto was his sidekick. Remember Otto? But I think there was something about Otto.
That's from The Simpsons.
No, it's a real fucking deal.
Real guy?
Yeah. Real fucking
Mr.
deal.
Steve was a Steelers fan. I brought in a Steelers football one day. I like your football. I'm a Steelers fan. And that's just stuck with me ever since. That's the only words I think
Isn't that
we ever
crazy? We
spoke.
both have like more memories about the janitor. I think it was the blue collar aspect of it too. Like you respected the dude. You knew he fixed the shit in the school, and there was something about it. Like
He
you'd
had a
see-
real job.
Yeah,
He worked.
It's like everybody else is like, what the fuck are these guys doing? They're not doing shit. Like Mr. Steve
Gotcha.
was getting it done.
That's a good answer. I like that. But it makes so much sense. Like you said, you can change lives for the better. I mean, you see kids all the time struggling, especially in today's age or whatever. With
When I go to a family event, it's like, you know, that when dads are supposed to take the kids to school, it's usually grandpas.
Is it really?
All the time. Yeah. Daddy-daughter dances. I've seen the older they get, the more you see that. But man, there's a lot of grandpas. It's crazy.
There's probably boys going to those daddy-daughter dances too. That's 3 references to this on this podcast.
You're on one tonight.
I am.
Yeah.
You know, I'm ready to change the world. I think
Is
I'm
the world ready for
I'm
change?
ready to run for office. I think.
One set of balls at a time.
Yeah, that's it.
It's, I tell you what, no flatheads. That's
No balls.
we do this on and off. A lot of people fly up here. I know you drove up here. You got anything for a pocket dump that's cool?
I think so.
Well, let's. What do you got in your pockets?
All right. So I've got a friend back home who was on Forged in Fire.
Oh,
Yeah.
I used to love that show.
His name's
Me and Blaze used to watch it all the
Dustin
time.
Perella. He's got a shop called Blue Collar Forge.
Okay.
So I have one of 4 custom-made
Oh,
Roadster Shop
holy shit.
Oh, shit.
pocket knives.
What?
Damn. Holy shit.
So you guys got to fight
What
over
are the
one.
odds of that?
You guys got to fight over 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, man.
I gave you your red, white, and blue
Holy
stickers. So
shit.
Dude,
Damn, that is badass.
that is awesome. Oh, I love it.
So you got the little RS on there.
I think we got to fight it out.
And then maybe start sticking at each other. So here's number 1. Mine's number 4. So
Oh, I love this, man.
That's badass.
Because a fixed blade is just... Fixed blade is where it's at. We're always talking
I
about
know.
carrying fixed
That's when
blades.
you're a man.
so yeah, that's for my pocket done.
Dude, I appreciate that, man. That's awesome.
No problem,
Man,
man.
you might have won. You might have won. No, you have won.
Yeah.
Yep.
For so long, John Jackson has been in the number 1 spot
With the
by
brass knuckles.
the brass knuckle slingshot.
It's been
he's
surpassed.
Just been,
He's been knocked off his throat.
He's knocked
Sorry,
off.
John.
Wow,
He still has a way better beard than mine.
man. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
That is
really cool.
amazing.
Those are badass.
No problem.
So he was on the Forged in Fire. If these things,
Will it kill?
we can try it out.
It will kill.
that's a great show. And when they start slashing the rope and the,
Dude, I'm belt carrying this tomorrow.
yeah,
We've been talking about fixed blades and the right sheath and the right. This is
that's it.
yeah.
This blue collar forged.
Yep.
Blue collar Forged.
Dustin Perella.
Let's
Yeah,
go
get
ahead.
out on
Pull
the
him
gram.
up. He's like, Henry, you think they'll like him? I was like, dude, it's handmade. We're hot rod builders. Like, he's gonna love them.
Absolutely.
So
Red, white, and blue. What's there not to like about it?
yeah,
Dustin,
there you go.
right
Yep,
there.
that's him. Shout out, Dustin.
Blue Collar Forge. All right, he's got 728 followers right now. We called it out last time we had J-Rod on here, right?
We could take that to 735 easily, I think. With our audience.
No, I want that thing to be. I want it to be 900 by 2 weeks from whenever now is. Whenever now is. I want 2 weeks from now. I want it to be 900.
I got to break a
And,
grand.
and just
Yeah, give
throwing
us
this out there, like
encouragement.
Dustin's at that point I
good
was at
looking
one
knife.
time where he's trying to figure out, like, is this what I'm gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, am I gonna do a different job? Like, yeah, definitely throw some likes on there if you see something you like. Like, he loves making blades.
Go on there and buy some
is that a
fucking
bush
knives.
latte? Is that a bush latte handle?
Where?
Right there at the corn. For the
cool.
farmers.
Oh, it is. No, everybody's
stuff.
wanting. I mean, we talk about it all the shows. Guys coming up all the time, like what knives?
Go back towards the top,
Yeah.
maybe a little further. The one right there. Yep. Nope. Right there. So he built that. He called that the Eclipse knife, but he modeled that off of that 78 Bronco.
Yeah.
Do you remember that had the
Sunset.
crazy paint?
Yeah.
Jump on his website. Is there a link at the top?
Right there.
Oh, start. Boom.
Hand forged 310. Oh, there's one available right now. That won't be
Sell
available.
it. In addition to bumping those likes, let's see
so
that.
I think that's made out of that Ford paint company. What's that called?
Fortisite.
Yep.
Oh, it's cool. Let's see this disappear too. Somebody better buy that.
I keep thinking that'd be an awesome hobby to have a forge in your garage and just make knives in the spare time, but I don't think I'm man enough to pull it off, and forearms aren't big enough to pound on
You know
that.
who is? Yes, out of all like we hung out with him. Who would do something like that?
Dean?
Sean.
Yeah.
He makes knives.
Yeah, Ford. Sean's
Of course
he's
he
a
does.
fucking freak.
Fucking A.
I have enough problem opening boxes.
He's gonna like
He's like
climb
the
Mount
perfect.
Everest.
He's like the
nest.
perfect man. I think he already has.
He's
Was that in between his 500-mile runs?
I think so.
he's got to be making
It's-
up for something. I'm telling you, he's too good at everything.
It's tiny.
Too good at everything. That's micro. That thing's like a helmet.
Cool.
Hey, absolutely
Yeah,
awesome.
I
That
appreciate that,
blade's
dude.
badass.
Yeah, y'all go get. You're not gonna be able to get this, but you're gonna be able to get something fucking cool.
One of four.
Amazing, man.
Hey,
Thank you.
Yep.
Henry, it's been awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming up, man.
Been a
Big
blast,
thanks again
dude.
to Henry. Remember, you can keep up with him on Instagram at Steadfast MFG. On Instagram, yeah, website.
Yeah.
Does anybody use a website anymore?
I don't.
You just like
Instagram's where it's
DMs.
at.
Something like that.
yeah.
Yeah. You need a badass Model A chassis, 32 chassis roller. It's your guy.
Truck, whatever. Thanks again for listening to Oil and Whiskey with the Roadster Shop, an Ironclad original. If you like the show, be sure to leave a rating or review. Make sure you check out Henry. Let's go check out one more thing while we're at it. We did Blue Collared Forge. Henry's probably got a shit ton of followers already. 23.4. That could be also still 23.4 because we're probably not going to see the hundreds of movements. So we'll see you again next week.